Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Hey there, everyone. Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Hope you're doing well today. Week 4 of the NFL season's about ready to get underway. The final week of the Major League Baseball season, at least the regular season, is upon us right now with all kinds of craziness going on. We got a lot to talk about there as well. It's a big day here on the show. Hope you're ready for about the next hour or so. What are we talking about on the show today? Well, here you go. Let's do it. Monday doubleheader in baseball. I'm sure you've heard about this by now, as I've got something in my eye, as I frequently do in the mornings. Monday doubleheader in baseball. We'll go through all the permutations there, whether it's going to happen, not going to happen, what could happen. Ugh. What happened in pitching last night? I had an ERA of 9 and a whip of 2 in one of my leagues last night. Do you have problems too? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Luis Ortiz and Jakob Junis kind of on the plus side of things. Wyatt Langford and Julio Rodriguez as well on the hitting side of things. Some injury updates. Brandon Rodgers, Grayson Rodriguez, Matt Wallner, Nestor Cortes, and Bichette. We'll then at about a half hour talk with Tyler Buecher. And I don't know what's happened in the world, but people seem to think that Patrick Mahomes is just a guy. Questions in Discord all the time. I woke up this morning, had 3 different comments about Patrick Mahomes. We talked about Patrick Mahomes on the show yesterday, the Elite Sports Show, Monday through Friday on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Jeff Mann's hosts. I'm there with him Wednesdays. We had a caller talking about Patrick Mahomes. What are you all thinking with Patrick Mahomes? We'll get into that with Tyler Buecher. I might even do a little bit myself. We'll talk about Juan, Jennnings, his outlook this week. Jordan Love, if he plays. The Bears backfield, what's going on there? The Ravens tight end position, what's going on there? And then we'll talk Thursday night football as we do every Thursday with Tyler Buecher. Before we get into the rest of the show, got something really exciting to share today. And we'll go through all these things here in a minute. Again, I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. You're listening and watching to Fantasy Sports Daily, Monday through Friday at 12 o'clock Eastern Time, powered by FantasyGuru.com. You can watch us live on Facebook.com/FantasyHQ. YouTube.com/@Elite+ Network. You can ask questions, leave comments there in those 2 spots live. We'll address those at the end of the show. You can also hit us up on your local podcast network. Just type in Fantasy Sports Daily and listen to us there. You can always click on the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page on FG and find this show as well as the others we do. But we do have one exciting thing to offer before we dive into the nitty-gritty today. We talk about here on the show, if you want to sign up for this product, click the subscribe tab in the top right corner of the site and all that kind of stuff. And we've had some great offers, great opportunities, and great chances for you to have success with us. Let's take that to a next level. Let's get really excited, folks. Are you going to get excited? Oh, I just lost it. Let's go for it. Let's talk about it. There we go. A big time discussion point at FantasyGuru.com, a flash sale. A crazy good flash sale right now. And when I say crazy good, I'm talking 50% off. You can see it there on the screen. You go to FantasyGuru.com, click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. If you sign up for football DFS for the rest of the season, you get wagering football free. If you sign up for wagering football for the rest of the season, you get DFS football free. Basically, it's a 50% off sale. Buy one, get the other for free. The promo code is attached. If you put both in your cart, it'll automatically happen. So again, to reiterate, right now, from now to the rest of the season, you only miss 3 weeks. So if we're missing 3 weeks, you get a 50% discount. If you buy either the wagering or the DFS package, you get the other one. We'll just toss it in for free. 50% off. No promo code needed. FantasyGuru.com. Click that tab at the top of the page. Get signed up. If you've already got one of the packages and you're thinking, I'd like to add the second package, support@FantasyGuru.com. Send Ten Schuster a note and he'll work with you. Support@FantasyGuru.com. But right now, DFS and wagering, 50% off. You get the second one for free. Check it out over at FantasyGuru.com. Yeah, pretty cool, right? I know. A lot of times I do the spiel and it's like, save 10%. Get 50% off. And you get 2 packages to hopefully not only make the money back that you invested, but obviously make some money in both avenues. So check that out over at FG. Big time fun. All right, let's get back to what we're talking about today more directly. Major League, you remember the movie? What was it? It was it was Sylvester Stallone and Kurt Russell. FOOBALL, right? It was that Tango and Cash. I think that was it, right? Major League Baseball FOOBALL this thing. For those people that don't know because you're knee deep in fantasy, or maybe you're just maybe the story broke yesterday and you kind of saw it or didn't see it. Here's what we got going on. The bottom line is the following: a doubleheader is now scheduled on Monday at Truist Park in Atlanta between the Mets and the Braves. Okay, so the game is now scheduled for Monday. Now here's the fantasy pull away before I dive into the details here. Number one, your league should not, N-O-T, should not allow you to make any roster changes on Monday. I'm not talking about changing your lineup. You should be able to change your lineup, but you shouldn't be able to use the waiver wire on Monday. Why? This is not game 163. Okay. This is just the regular season game getting completed. A lot of times we have that extra game and it's game 163, and then the waiver wire is open. Everyone has it at it. We've all got an extra chance to get one extra game. These are regular season games. So in Tout Wars, in FSGA, we're not running Fab on Sunday night. Now, my leagues are different because we run Fab once a week. If you have open waiver wires, which I know a ton of you do, this doesn't apply. Okay. If you do have open waiver wires, the games are going to count on Monday. So get ready, because the season's not ending on Sunday. The games are going to count on Monday, game or games, or maybe no games. We'll talk about it in a second. But you're going to want to load up on Sunday night on Mets and Braves if your league allows you to do that. It shouldn't, but if it does, you can do that. Back to the actual game. So there's a doubleheader that's now scheduled on Monday, starting at 1:10 Eastern. Obviously, this game is the games have been delayed because of the weather, hurricane, and everything like that. Okay, so here's the scenario that could play itself out. The Mets and Braves could play an 18-inning doubleheader. Heaven forbid they go extra innings. Could play an 18-inning doubleheader on Monday. Okay, whoever wins that, wins the series and makes the playoffs, that kind of thing, would have to fly to Los Angeles, San Diego, or Milwaukee to start the playoffs, right? That means that they would be playing 18 games on Monday, and the playoffs start on Tuesday. So if you're the Mets have one location on Sunday. They'd have another location on Monday. They'd have another location on Tuesday. The Mets could actually be in 3 cities in 4 days. Okay, that's a problem. It seems possible, but unlikely, that game 1 of the series for the Mets or Braves, if it came to that, would be moved to Wednesday. It seems like Major League Baseball is starting the series on Tuesday as planned. Okay, so that's that one scenario. The second scenario is if the Mets or Braves finish the weekend knowing they are in the playoffs, meaning the games on Monday don't matter because they know they're standing in the playoffs. Other teams still may not. What does that mean for the Mets or the Braves when they play on Monday? Do they even care? Do they play their backup players? Do they try to win a game? Does it matter to them? Doesn't matter to them. They're going to save at the very least, they're going to save their arms for the start of the playoffs, right? So how is this bullpen situation? So that's a problem. Now, there's also a scenario where the Mets and the Braves know what's going on. The playoffs are settled, and there's no games played on Monday. The Major League Baseball just says, these games aren't going to matter. They're not going to change the impact of the playoff seeding. We're not playing a game on Monday. There's also a scenario where Major League Baseball might have to have them play one game, but then if the playoff seeding is set after game 1, not play the second game of the doubleheader. So this is a total disaster for Major League Baseball. They could have moved up game times to avoid the hurricane. They didn't do that. They could have rescheduled the earlier game between the Mets and the Braves. I think it was in April, the one that got canceled that they're having to deal with now. Could have rescheduled that at some point in the regular season. There's a lot of people talking about gamesmanship between these two teams, a lot of anger out there. Bottom line is Major League Baseball FOOBAR'd this because the commissioner's office could always have stepped in and said, you're doing this, right? A or B. So we've got a wild scenario coming down. We could have no games on Monday. We could have 2 games on Monday. We could have 1 game on Monday. We don't know. And with the way fantasy baseball is set up, because again, these aren't even extra games. It's not games 163. These are regular season games. All these games are going to count in fantasy. So your season's not over on Sunday. Now, it could be over on Sunday if they don't play Monday. But it's probably not over on Sunday. I've talked about this a lot. I'm in first place in Tout Wars. My team, again, that was the team I had an ERA of 9 and a whip of 2 last night. That was not good. Lost 3 points in the standings. But I'm already sweating this out the final week, trying to bring home a championship here and not have a total collapse as my team is falling into the toilet, literally falling into I know exactly what all of you say when my team is blowing it at the end, because that's exactly what's happening with my team. Now I'm not only going to have to struggle through Sunday, I might have to struggle through Monday too. So this is it's a terrible scenario for the players. It's a terrible scenario for the fans. It's a terrible scenario in the fantasy space. So we'll have to continue to watch this. But again, remember, if you're playing, still playing. head-to-head or roto, and you're in a league that allows moves and they're open waiver wires and there's no limits on moves, as soon as you can, as soon as you like that, as soon as Corbin Burns pitches today, run to the waiver wire and out of Meta or Brave. Whoever you've got pitching, Kyle Gibson's, pitching, drop him tomorrow, pick up a Brave. Like as soon as you start losing these pitchers in particular that aren't going to help you over the weekend, start picking up Braves and Mets because you might be able to win a championship because you got 5 Mets in your lineup or 5 Braves in your lineup because they play 2 games on Monday. It's a possible scenario. It's not fair. It's not right, but it is what it is. All right, let's talk a little bit about the performance last night. And, like I said, this is all, and we'll talk about Nestor Cortes. He went down with an injury last night with his arm, and he's not going to pitch I'll say now, he's not going to pitch the rest of the season, it seems like. So that was kind of a harbinger. He was one of the guys that everyone was looking to add on the waiver wire this week. He, if he was available. I'm surprised he was available in the leagues he was because he's been pitching so well. But this week is devolving quickly on the hill. There were some banger performances last night. Eric Fetty got 10 strikeouts, a lot of run. Kevin Gausman allowed 1 run in his 6 innings of work. There were a couple of nice ones. But my God, did you get bit last night like I did and like other people did too. Luis Ortiz, 7 innings and 1 run ball last night. So there was a few really good efforts. We'll talk a little bit more about Ortiz in a second. Jakob Junis didn't pitch poorly. But look at this. Javier Assad, 8 runs in 4 1/3 innings. Marcus Stroman, 6 runs in 3 1/3 innings. Marcus Stroman, who should have been pitching out of the bullpen this week and was forced into starting duty because Nestor Cortes was hurt, got obliterated. Gave up 10 hits in the 3 1/3 innings, gave up 6 runs. Brady Basso, who some people were turning to and hoping would have success, he gave up 5 runs in 3 innings. Mark Bowman gave up 4 runs and got 1 out. I don't think anyone was pitching him. Austin Gomber, anyone pitching Austin Gomber? 4 runs in 5 innings. Richard Fitz, I know people were streaming him against Toronto. He gave up 4 runs in 5 innings. Mason Black, no one should have been pitching him. He got 8 outs, gave up 4 runs. Zach Eflin walked 5 guys. Zach Eflin walking, what is that? Zach Eflin could go through a month, legitimately pitch a month and walk 5 guys. He walked 5 guys, didn't even make it through 5 innings. Now, luckily, he only gave up 3 earned runs. But still, he only pitched 4 2/3 innings with 5 walks and a single strikeout. He didn't pitch well. Zach Littell was fine, but he gave up 3 runs in 4 2/3 innings. Jack Flaherty was fine. He gave up 3 runs in 5 innings. Dylan Cease was fine. He gave up 3 runs in 5 innings. Cease had 4 strikeouts. Flaherty had 5 strikeouts. Suarez, who was pitching against the White Sox, who a lot of people picked up, and I think rightly should have picked up to face the White Sox, was okay, but he gave up 3 runs in 5 innings. Christopher Sanchez, he gave up 3 runs in 4 2/3 innings, didn't even qualify for the victory against the Cubs. Simeon Woods Richardson pitched an inning. He gave up 3 runs in the first inning, and the Twins said, nope, you're done. Pulled him out. He didn't even get his normal 4 2/3 innings. He got 1 inning of work. Hector Neris struggled out of the bullpen, gave up a couple of runs in an inning. I mean, this was just a really bad night. And this, and I had someone in Discord talking to me yesterday saying that they had a bunch of innings left. And it brought up the real question that if you're still in a head-to-head or roto league, I guess most head-to-head leagues are done, so probably talking to roto people. Some roto leagues, I don't believe in this. I don't think there should be limits. There are roto limits. Sometimes it's 1,200 innings, 1,250, 1,300, 1,500. Okay. There shouldn't be a top-end inning limit. I've said this all along. If you want to go all starting pitchers all season long and no relievers, have at it. If you want to go, there should be a lower end, and we usually do about 750 because you don't want someone just to use 5 relievers and that all year, right? So there has to be a bottom-end workload number to hit. But top-end, there shouldn't be a limit. You should be allowed to manage your roster any way you want. Bottom line is I had someone ask me, say, hey, look, I've got a bunch of 70 innings left, and I'm trying to, kind of get there. And we talked it through yesterday, and I basically said, this is not the time of year to be doing this. This is not the time of year where you should be saying to yourself, I've got innings left. I'm pushing it. Now, if you need strikeouts or wins, you do what you got to do. I get it. You ratios, you're going to go risky here, okay? But if you're okay in strikeouts and wins, or you can't appreciably change your spot in the standings, which is interesting because I last night had the ERA at 8 runs in 8 innings for my team. I lost 2 points, I think. Let me look at it real quick. I think I lost 2 points in ERA last night. Where is it? I lost 1 point in ERA last night. I lost 1 point in the seasonal ERA off of 8 runs in 8 innings, and I lost 1 point in WHIP off of 14, 15 batters in 8 innings. One night, 8 innings of work, not even a full game, caused me to lose 2 points in the ratio categories. That's a real issue if you're the person out there, rolling out Beso or David Festa or Fitz or these. It's like, ooh. So I know what we're all trying to accomplish, but you have to make sure you're playing the standings. And that is something that when people ask questions is very difficult, because I need, where are you at in the standings? Do 12 strikeouts get you 2 points? Does, 0.5 of a run lose you 2 points? You've got to play your categories. So I think the bottom line is last night again showed us what can happen when you're trying to play matchups heavily. And it bit me. I went Davis Martin this week. He didn't pitch well. Walked 5 guys last night. It's never been more of a struggle than it has this year. And I know this is something I've talked about previously with all of you, and it's something that we will revisit next year. I'm going to make this happen next year. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to try my damnedest to make half-season leagues a thing. And I've talked about this, written about this. What do you think? Would you like half-season leagues? And by that I mean we play one league to the All-Star break. We then draft a second team at the All-Star break. So we have 2 leagues. You can play half a season and then do football if you want. You can say, man, first half was great. I want to win a second championship. You could say to yourself, look, my team was decimated by injury. Okay. My first half squad looked great on paper, and then it all went to pot. Bobby Miller sucked. Walker Bueller got hurt. Luis Rengifo got hurt. Max Scherzer never got healthy. On and on, right? I lost Ronald Acuna, who blew it. In half-season leagues, even if your team is dreadful on July 10th, you don't have to say, well, I'm just going to do football now. You could redraft the whole new team on July 15th. I think that's what we need here, because I'm looking at my Tout Wars team, which again is in first place right now. Knock on wood, I'll win. I'm very nervous about it. My pitching staff this week is Martin, Cade Smith, Joe Jimenez, Marcus Stroman, Jose Barrios, Valdez, and Skeens. Oh, and Kyle Finnegan. And I'm in first place. On my IL, I've got Lodolo, Scherzer, Ryan, Harrison, Ryan Nelson. I mean, this is bad. That's a 15-teamer, okay. But it's bad. Would you want to play half-season leagues? I'm really interested in this. I'm going to push for us to get someone to develop it for us next year. Hopefully, everyone will agree to that. Scott Bonder says, is ESPN going to allow Monday to count? I would assume it would, Scott. I mean, again, it's a regular season game. It's not even an extra game. It's not even game 163. It's regular season. Has to count. It absolutely has to count. It's a regular season game. Game 163 should count too. But I'm just saying these are in the 162, so it absolutely is going to count. And that's why this whole scenario is so important, Scott, is that are they playing 0 games? Are they playing 1 game? They're playing 2 games. We don't. Major League Baseball doesn't know. The players don't know. The teams don't know. The league, no one knows. But the games absolutely count. So season long, head-to-head, whatever's still playing in fantasy, your season is not over on Sunday night. It's got to go through Monday. I don't know specifically what any of the providers, CBS, Yahoo, ESPN, I don't know what any of them are doing. I haven't called around. But if they don't allow Monday to count, they're robbing everyone of what the game is. The game has to count. It's an official game. It has to count. So let's stay on all the providers to help. Hopefully they'll issue statements and stuff to let us know what they're planning on doing there. A couple of positives on the pitching side of things. We can't leave it with me saying everyone's horrible, even though they actually were horrible. On a positive side of things, Luis Ortiz, who I have on my Dynasty League team, who I have on my Tout Wars team, who I didn't start last night because I was nervous about the matchup with the Brewers. That didn't work out so well. He went out there and had 7 innings of shutout baseball, 7 innings, 1-run baseball, walked a guy, struck out 5. And that's 2 quality starts to end his season. That's 4 quality starts his last 6 outings, He pitched really well this year, and he solidified himself as a long-term starter for the Pirates. Finishes the year with a 3.3 ERA, a 1.1 WHIP, and pitched very effectively. Now, his strikeout rate of 19%, that's way below where we need it to be. His walk rate slightly better than the league average, but that strikeout to walk ratio of 12% is way below the league average. He was very fortunate this season. The 243 batting average of balls in play will not be repeated next year. If you look at his xFIP, it was 4.5. His SIERA was 4.4. Remember, his ERA was 3.3. So don't be swayed by the ratios come next year with Luis Ortiz. unless he introduces more strikeouts or changes his pitch mix up a bit, which I don't think he's going to do because he basically did that this year. He's more of a streaming option. He's a guy who pitched very well this season, but the ratios were better than we should expect from him moving forward. Pitch great, a huge addition off the waiver wire in deeper leagues, but there is a little bit of an issue with him moving forward that everyone should be aware of, and I'm sure we'll hit on this again in the postseason as we do postmortems and look ahead to 2025. Jakob Junis. Jakob Junis, man, he's Jakob Junis, and who cares long term and all that. But he did it again yesterday. And when I say did it again, he was effective. That is a fourth straight outing yesterday of at least 5 innings of work. He's with the Reds now. For the Reds starting pitcher, 4 straight innings of at least 5 innings pitched, and he allowed 0, 1, 1, and 2 runs. That's an ERA of 1.7 over his last 4 starts. All of them at least 5 innings. He walked 2 guys in 21 innings of work. What a finish. He gave up 10 hits. I mean, that's 12 base runners in 21 innings. Fantastic end of the season for him. The 2 runs against Cleveland. He was another guy that we were all looking at and talking about the matchup. But he was one of the guys that we talked about, and he came through. 5 innings, 2-run baseball, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. Boom. Gave up the home run to our Jose Ramirez, who's I think up to 38 now. He's trying to get that 40-40 season. But Junis with a strong kick. Long term, I don't think it means much. He's clearly not going to walk a batter every other start. Even in this great run, he struck out 7 guys per 9 innings. He's been around forever. He's 32 years old. He is. I mean, you never know because guys do make changes, right? This does happen all the time now. Training in the offseason, all that. But Junis is the quintessential 6th starting pitcher, right? He can do long relief. He can do short relief. He can make some spot starts. And I think that's likely to be what his scenario is next year. He does have a mutual option. I'm looking at it right now. He's got a mutual option for next year, which I believe is $7 million. Does it go back to the Reds? Maybe. We'll see. But over the last 5 years, he's made 10 starts a single time, and that was back in 2022. A couple of batters to talk about. Wyatt Langford. And I just want to hit on Wyatt Langford because he was so bad at the start of the season. So many people disappointed in his effort, and rightly so, because he was a 12th round pick, a 10th round pick, a 6th round pick. He was getting up 3rd or 4th round. If I'm remembering correctly, and it was a long time ago, but at the end, there was crazy hype with Wyatt Langford. And simply didn't live up to the expectations. He massively missed the expectations. Now, if you took him in the 12th round when draft season began, and I were to say to you, look, a rookie in his first full season at the big league level who had never had an at-bat in the regular season baseball game before this year, went out and went 14-17, 70-70 while hitting 250. So 250, 14, 70, 70, 15. What would you say? You'd say that's pretty damn good. And that's right where he's at right now. He's a run short and a home run short of going 250, 15, 70, 70, 15. That's really good for a guy who's never had a major league at bat, who's 22 years old. Really good. Now, it wasn't even. It wasn't consistent. It wasn't a good season technically for, half the year. It wasn't very good. But he's been very effective in the second half. And he's been so effective in the second half that if you were to pull back and just look at the totality of what he's done, you would say that that's a very successful season. Now, the Rangers didn't have a successful season. Things went horribly wrong, all of that. But over his last 58 games in the second half, 9 home runs, 39 runs scored, 31 RBIs, stolen 9 bases. Like, this is good work. And if you look at his September, he's hitting 300 with 6 home runs, 17 RBIs, and 20 runs scored in 22 games. So everyone's going to say at the end, it was a bad year, but it was not that bad when you look at it in total. They're all going to say, did you see his September? He's going to be on everyone's breakout list next year. Every person in the world, all of them. We're going to have Langford on the breakout list next year. Really strong finish to the season. And again, those numbers for a rookie, pretty damn good. Some people just expected too much out of him. Julio Rodriguez. Julio did it again. And, it's Julio Rodriguez. He's a first-round pick. We talked earlier this week about, what's going to happen with him? Where's he going to be drafted in 2024? You can always catch all the shows on demand on youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork, on your your podcast network, Fantasy Sports Daily, at FG, the Elite Plus tab at the top. You can always go and listen to old shows. We talked about it earlier this week. And, he had another home run last night, did Rodriguez. And so we're looking at him now. His last 7 games, he's got a 7-game hitting streak, hitting 389, 4 home runs, 13 RBIs. If you go back a bit further and you go, let's see, to the 13th of September, Over his last 61 plate appearances, hitting 414, 6 home runs, 18 RB. He's back to being a superstar. It's not going to matter. His overall numbers, they're still, he just went 2020, but the home run last night, we talked about that earlier this week too. Can he get to 2020? He did. And you know what? Even with all the struggles he had, do you know what his batting average is right now? Year one, it was 284. Year two was 275. With this hot September, it is 274. He's got a legitimate chance to match his 277 career batting average, which is pretty damn impressive given how long he struggled. Of course, the season is down overall. But again, 275 2020 in your worst season, pretty good baseball player. Some updates on the health of some guys here. Brandon Rodgers, who I'm starting in Tout Wars. Please play this week, Brandon. Brandon Rodgers who wasn't in the lineup yesterday, again, for the hamstring issue. He said he was available to pinch hit. Hopefully he plays the rest of the week in Cortes and gets those extra games. Hasn't played to date this week. Aaron Shunk has been playing second base. Rodgers, we'll see, but there's a chance he's playing through the weekend. At least that's the hope. Grayson Rodriguez, the starting pitcher of the Orioles, that there was a hope he would get back to start. Then it became a reality that his oblique issue was just not one that he was going to be able to build up a pitch count and everything to be a starting pitcher. So the hope was Grayson Rodriguez would pitch out of the bullpen. Because remember, Craig Kimbrell's gone. They obviously lost Felix Bautista before the season began, all this kind of stuff. They could use Grayson Rodriguez out of the bullpen. I mean, that's a weapon, right? Brandon Hyde yesterday said it's over. And this kind of caught a lot of people by surprise because we're not really hearing he had a setback. And it's not like a lat muscle injury is one that if it goes horribly wrong is, going to require massive amounts of surgery and him to change his pitching mechanics for the rest of his career. So kind of strange. Maybe we'll get a little bit more information, but the bottom line is Rodriguez's season is over, and that includes through the playoffs. They said his season is over. It's just over. Really weird. Pitched effectively this year, but we didn't see him after July. And that's always the missing piece for youngsters, playing all the way through a season. Matt Wallner, who we talked about yesterday, has been placed on the injured list with that oblique issue of his own. His season is over. Doesn't really matter for a lot of people. I get that, but just to point it out, and we've pointed it out many times, Matt Wallner, he's played 169 games, so about a season of work, 29 home runs, 88 RBIs, 72 runs, batting .250, right? But look at that OPS. His OPS is 866. That's an all-star level OPS. And against right-handed pitching, he is really good. So I hope that the team in Minnesota is finally saying he's in our lineup, he's established, we're just going to roll with him. Because against righties, he's a damn productive player. Nestor Cortes, we're hearing that his issue with his arm, it's not certain, but it sounds like his issue with the arm means his season's over. So no matter how far the Yankees go, it sounds like we've seen the last of Cortes. That's obviously hugely disappointing for the Yankees. Bichette had a pin placed in his finger, having surgery, all that. They said he should be fine for the start of next year. They anticipate him having normal offseason training. We'll see. Obviously, an ignominious end to what has been a rough season for Bichette. Hopefully, he's able to train normally and recapture the glory next year because this season, just a total disaster. Greg Martinez says, yeah, very sad day, Ray, in Oakland. Absolutely is a sad day, Greg. Greg spent his summers in Union City and Fremont in the 1990s. For those people that have missed it, this is the last day for the Athletics in Oakland. They're off to Sacramento for a couple of years before they transition to their new home in Las Vegas. There are a lot of very angry players, people in baseball, people around baseball, fans. No one likes the direction the A's have taken. The owner is hiding behind press releases. He won't even do interviews, or I don't know. But it is a sad day, and I hope that the Oakland fans don't go nuts. There's some concern that they might go nuts and field apart and do all this kind of stuff. Let's hope that everyone, I saw there's videos on social media of, like the ball boys on the side giving people sand and stuff. Hopefully people are respectful and it doesn't get out of hand with that final game today. But yeah, the A's will head off to Sacramento to play in a minor league stadium that is getting renovations to bring it up to major league standards. Still, it's a small park. It's 115 degrees. I mean, it's 105 degrees all the time in Sacramento, like all the time. It's going to be a rough year or two. And we'll also have to factor in the park factors. next year, and it's going to be a big deal. I've already seen people saying, well, Shea Langolier's almost got to 30 home runs this year for the Athletics. He's getting 30 next year in second. So we'll talk more about that. But yeah, it's a sad day. Yeah, and me too, Greg. Highlights is always going to Coliseum in the Stick. I'm a San Francisco born and bred guy myself. I've told the story many times. I was at Lower Prieta earthquake in '89, October 17th, 5:04 p.m. I was at the game between the A's and the Giants when the earthquake hit. My dad saw the first game at Seal Stadium, the first game at Candlestick, the last game at Candlestick, the first game at the new park. My dad was here his whole life and saw the entire Giants trajectory. We were never as close to the A's because we were on the west side. We didn't live on the other side of the bay here. But it is sad. It's just a really sad scenario. I agree with you. And Jeff Mans was talking about yesterday, that new A's stadium, if it actually comes together and everything, it's right on the middle of the strip. It's right there. So they're gonna have some attendance. So it's a money grab by the owners. Certainly seems that way. They haven't spent money that they should have spent over the years. They've been very cheap. We'll see what happens long term. But it is a sad day for baseball too. It's not just the Athletics. I think it's a sad day for baseball. All right, let's turn it around to a positive. We got a lot of sadness there, a lot of poor pitching and all that. Let's talk some football. I know there's a lot of people that are pissed off in football and they're angry at football all the time, but it's still only week 4, so we got plenty of time to turn that frown upside down. Every Wednesday we visit with our man Tyler Baker, so let's bring him in now to the show. If I can learn how to use my tools. Tyler, how you doing today, bud?
I am doing great, Ray. How about you?
I'm doing okay. Yeah, lots going on. Last week of me really doing baseball full-time and football full-time, so it's a hectic time for me. September's always that way, but looking forward to kind of taking a breath after the baseball season, getting into the football season full-time. Do you play any other fantasy sports? I know you kind of dabble here and there. Do you do anything other than football?
Not season long. I'll do props and things for other sports, but and daily fantasy, but no, for season long.
All right. I wanted to talk to you. We'll talk as Tyler is on the show every Thursday with us, Tyler Beaker. We talk Thursday Night Football. He'll give a prop bet at the end of the show. We'll talk about matchups, game script, all that kind of stuff here in a bit. But I wanted to talk to you about some big picture issues before we get to that. And I jokingly said this at the start, and I don't know. I'm doing so many things and I'm not watching every show and everything like that. All I can figure is Matthew Berry or somebody on ESPN said that Patrick Mahomes stinks. Because all of a sudden, Patrick Mahomes. I don't know if you're seeing this. I woke up questions in Discord. I woke up to questions on Twitter. Everyone's looking at Patrick Mahomes. 11 touchdowns in 8 games. Oh my God. Where are we at with Patrick Mahomes? Because it seems like a lot of people all of a sudden think that he's Jared Goff. Where are we at?
It does seem like a bit of an overreaction there. He is getting the ball out quicker than he ever has before in his career. Extremely low average depth of target. Extremely high rate of quick throws. Some of that we can blame on the offensive line. First 2 weeks, they had the rookie there, Kingsley Saumatia. We'll just say that's his last name. They eventually, week 3, they moved over to Wanya Morris, mainly because Kingsley kept getting beat quickly. And that just kind of forced quicker throws from Mahomes. And we didn't get to see a lot of the explosiveness. There's still a new perimeter weapon there in rookie Xavier Worthy. It takes time to build that type of rapport. Mm-hmm. And losing Marquise Hollywood Brown, not ideal either. So until then, I think we continue to see it to be the Rashee Rice show where it's just really shallow targets in terms of what Casey does. But yeah, they just need to solidify that left tackle spot. And I think we'll get back to Mahomes as the season progresses. It's again, small sample stuff. Don't get over worried about things like that. We did see some vertical testing last week from him. He was picked off multiple times for it, but he's at least trying to do it. So I don't think there's reason to panic. I think it's still Mahomes. It's still Andy Reid. They're going to find a solution here quickly.
How much of that, the struggles, are Kelsey related or Marquise Brown related? I know the offensive line is huge, but Kelsey and Marquise Brown, is that playing into this too, Tyler?
Well, Kelsey's always kind of been viewed as more of the playoff kind of play in terms of fantasy expectations during the regular season, et cetera, et cetera. Don't really envision him being a massive piece. He'll be probably more a spot like play kind of person, depending on matchups, depending on what they're looking at, depending on game scripts. But yeah, I don't think he's really an integral part of this passing attack right now. It's really Rashee Rice who's taken over, and man, what a home run swing for him in terms of fantasy value. But yeah, losing Hollywood definitely stinks. They're back to Justin Watson out there on the perimeter, who's Justin Watson. Right. All due respect, he's a 1 or 2 catch kind of guy, not really a volume perimeter weapon. So it's something that I'm expecting with time. We see Worthy have maybe a better second half than a first half, and that's natural for most rookie wideouts. Even almost all rookie wideouts not named Malik Nabers. Usually they take some time. There's an adjustment period.
What about a situation? Let's go to West Coast where I live. Juan Jennnings. Now, we all know, I think, that he's very unlikely the rest of his career to ever have that many targets or to have that many catches or to have that many yards or to have that many touchdowns in a game ever again. Okay. Doesn't seem like Deebo Samuel's going to play again. Brandon Ayuk through 3 weeks has not earned $1 of his contract. Juwan Jennings was making contested catches and double coverage. He was leaping. He was doing great things last week. So we know how this goes. People are going to look at Jennings, and I think rightfully in some scenarios say he's a wide receiver 3 this week, right? Is that how you're viewing him, or is this a stay-off scenario against the Patriots?
Well, I mean, the rapport is evident. Like, these guys have been teammates for a while, and when you think about practices, day in, day out, the grind, they're not every target's going to Deebo. Not every target's going to Ayuk. This guy, Jennings, is consistently involved in practices, and we saw him consistently involved against the Rams last week. Made big play after big play, and that just kind of built the confidence and the chemistry between the two, where Purdy just kept turning to him. George Kittle did return to practice. I think that's super notable because a lot of the routes where I thought Jennings would win would kind of overlap with what Kittle would do. And through no fault of his own, Brandon Ayuk drew multiple penalties in the form of holding, defensive pass interference. It wiped off multiple catches or would-be catches, including one that would have went for like a 75-yard house call. So I think we're overreacting to Ayuk given all the hype and expectations with specifically Deebo and Kittle being out. Everyone thought Ayuk would have this massive performance, and instead it was Jennings who took advantage of very poor coverage by the Rams' perimeter corners on the outside. I just think that's going to be a team we want to target week in and week out, and Jennings was the guy that capitalized. So like you said at the start, I don't want to chase a 3-touchdown outing. I do want to acknowledge, though, that there's wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 upside here. They are playing the Patriots. I imagine they run away with that game, so it's probably not going to be a pass volume heavy one, but it should still be an efficient and effective performance by Jennings.
Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com. You can hear him every Wednesday here with us at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. You can also follow him on Twitter X at Tyler Beaker, TYLERBUECHER. Tyler, what about the situation with Jordan Love? It sounds like he's going to play this week. That's kind of the lean. He's got what on paper looks like a difficult matchup. He could be limited mobility-wise against a team that likes to blitz because of the knee. If Love is under center this week, are we just firing him up? He's a QB1 and feeling good about the offense for the Packers.
It's a good question. I did not expect him to play last week. I thought it would be a rushed back situation. This week home, it's at a home matchup against a divisional rival. I'm fully expecting him to return here. And like you said, Minnesota, blitz-heavy team. Love against the blitz last year, 75% adjusted completion rate, 7.1 yards per attempt, 10-1 touchdown to interception ratio. Great stats there. In week 17, the time he got to see them for the second time in the season last year, he completed 73% of his passes, 256 passing yards, and 4 total touchdowns. So I think he is an adept passer against the blitz. I think that's something we can safely assume. So what you just said there in terms of his mobility and avoiding the blitz, I think we may see some more quick hitters in terms of getting rid of it quickly. We saw that last week with the Stroud to Diggs connection where Diggs just got peppered with a lot of shallow looks. Something similar might unfold for Love, but I think he's if you're in a single quarterback format, I think he's in play for sure. This matchup, like we said last year, 3 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing score. Don't imagine we'll see him rushing quite a bit here in week number 4, but I still think he's a solid play. And after weeks of being unable to use the Packers wideouts, they're back in play.
Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com. Bears backfield. Everyone's now going for Rashawn Johnson. Now, Rashawn Johnson couldn't find the field for 2 weeks. The Bears turned him last week because Herbert's not getting it done. Swift's not getting it done. The problem is the offensive line is horrible right now. People are chasing Johnson. They're adding Johnson. What's going on here? Like, what is there any clarity with this backfield? Is there anyone you'd even consider starting this week in this backfield with the Bears?
Yeah, the offensive line has just been absolutely terrible in terms of like yards before contact, but Swift isn't doing himself any favors either. He's been beyond terrible, like Rashad White level terrible from last year. Supposed to be a layup matchup week 3 against the Colts run defense, and they had multiple defensive line starters out due to injury, and they just kept getting pushed off the ball time and time again by the backups of the Colts. I'm completely out on this group. If you want to take swings at Roschon Johnson in the event that Swift gets benched, I understand that. I'd rather go that route because I think Johnson has some explosiveness, where Khalil Herbert's more of the between the tackles grinder. I typically play in full PPR formats, so the pass catching back like Roschon makes a bit more sense for what I'm targeting.
Ravens tight end situation. Last question before we get to Thursday Night Football. What's happening? We got the head coach. We got John Harbaugh who wins games and all. Mr. Baltimore saying, well, sometimes this is just going to happen. Is Andrews hurt? Is there something that, is that accident from the preseason something? Is it the new offense? Is it what is going on here? There's no clarity at the tight end position. And we always knew that whoever's starting at that tight end spot is getting 7 targets a week and catching 5 passes. Now we don't know if either one of these guys is going to be heavily involved in the offense.
Yeah. Andrews puts you in a tough spot. Like, everyone invested great capital in him. Don't drop him. Do not do that, please. Week 1, he was game planned out by Spags. It was a great game plan. Worked to perfection. He didn't do much. Week 2, 5 targets, 51 receiving yards. To me, that's a normal outing for a tight end. Mm-hmm. It's normal. It's pedestrian. Good. He checked the box. Week 3, 15 pass attempts by the Ravens. Keep that context in mind, guys. They were slaughtering Dallas on the ground game. Why would they throw? They didn't need to. They had the lead the entire game. They were consistently winning in the rushing attack. It did stink there was like a rotation in terms of snaps and pass routes, but again, there's not much in terms of the pie. It was like a cupcake. It wasn't a pie. There was very little volume there in terms of the opportunity for Andrews to pick up anything. So I'm not panicking. He's got a matchup here against the Bills. Sunday Night Football should be a really fun, exciting matchup. And the Bills, what do we know about them? Too high. They play it at one of the league's highest rates. That provides opportunity underneath. We saw Christian Kirk have that big explosive game. Brenton Strange got into the paint. I think we could see Andrews as that underneath option for Lamar in week 4. So I'm not panicking. If you have another starter, that's the problem is nobody has another starter that's consistent aside from Brock.
They're all the same. They're all getting 6 points, right?
They're all getting 6 points.
Yeah,
exactly. So roll him out again. If he doesn't do it here in against Buffalo in a matchup where he should be utilized, we'll talk about it next week then. How about that?
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. He does join us every Thursday to talk kind of the goings on in the world of football, and then we focus a little more directly on Thursday Night Football. Let's go to that matchup tonight. And, you look at the matchup between the Cowboys and the Giants, Tyler, and, the Cowboys are struggling to run the ball. They've been effective passing the ball. The Giants all of a sudden look like every defensive backfield player's hurt. Is this Dak Prescott to the moon with CeeDee Lamb finally having a huge effort here? Because he's been a little underwhelming as well for a guy that was expected to be better than he has been to date.
Yeah, keep in mind the Dallas offseason where August there were holdouts. There was an injury to Dak as well. Like, these guys weren't really getting the rapport that they typically have leading up into the season. Because of that, I think the slow start makes sense to me. And when I look at this matchup here against the Giants, like you said, several cornerbacks are injured. There's a missing, potential missing defensive lineman in Dexter Lawrence, who logged a limited session on Wednesday, and Mika Fadden, another linebacker. So there's pieces at like every level that's kind of banged up for the Giants. The run game for Dallas has kind of been a mess. Rico Dowdle outsnapping Zeke 95-75, outtouching him 31-24. He's the guy that I'm prioritizing, and the Giants' run defense, that's really where they're weakest. 5.4 yards per carry allowed to opposing backs. It's the 3rd highest rate in the league. They're also the number 1 in explosive gains allowed on the ground. Problem is, do Dowdle and Zeke have the juice to rip off explosive gains? Probably not. But I do think the Cowboys build their lead through the passing attack because of all those injuries in the secondary. And we've kind of got the squeaky wheel narrative here with Lamb in terms of him saying he wasn't doing it enough. I just imagine that we see a big day from Lamb, including multiple targets in the opening drive, like just where they purposefully feed him. Mm-hmm. Giants are also top 5 in fantasy points per game allowed to outside wideouts. So guys like Jalen Tolbert, he's intriguing for the DFS showdown slate. 9.9 fantasy points per game, outscoring Brandon Cooks 7.2 so far this year. I think that's notable considering the two are basically tied in route participation and targets. Jake Ferguson returned last week, didn't miss a beat. Zach Ertz, we saw, put up some usable points against this defense. So I like the Dallas passing attack. I think they do get going, and when they need to run, they should find success. So I think Dallas walks away with this game, to be honest. I'm expecting big things out of their offense.
You said Dowdle over Elliott if you had to choose a guy this week. Flex option? I mean, are you thinking there's going to be enough work for him to get 15 touches and maybe he's an RB2? Like, what are you thinking?
Flex sounds right, like RB3/flex. So he wouldn't be a top 24 pick for me if you're looking at just the RB group. But if you want to play him tonight against the Giants defense, that's, like I said, very poor defending the run. Game script should be on Dallas' side. They're 5. It's variable, the spread, but it's in their favor. We're looking at either 5 or 6 points right now.
And no concern with Ferguson. He's a tight end 1. Just roll him out there, right? Because I know there's some people that now they've made moves, right? And they've got other options because he was hurt. You're starting him this week, right?
Yeah, I mean, we saw week 2 when he was out, Schoonmaker was still involved. Week 3, he returned 6 catches, 95 yards against the Ravens. Can't ask for more than that this year, guys. So yeah, play him in week 4 with confidence.
Tyler Bichette of fantasyguru.com. Let's go to the Giants side of things. And, it's really been 2 players in this offense. It's been Nabers and Singletary. Let's talk first of all about the passing attack tonight against Dallas. Dallas's defense is not – it's Dallas, but their defense has not played like Dallas today. Talk to us about the passing attack and, Jones and Nabers in particular. What are you seeing in this matchup tonight with the Cowboys?
Yeah, if the Giants fall behind, I think it could be a real big issue. The Cowboys, their pass rush isn't like elite by any means. It's 12th in pressure rate. It's 13th in non-blitz pressure rate, so when they don't send additional guys. But the Giants offensive line, 30th in pressure rate allowed, 32nd in pass block win rate. That's the liability there. So they could make an average-looking pass rush look phenomenal, and I think that's what's going to happen tonight. They play a lot of zone, so we could see Nabers pick up a lot of, given the pass rush, a zone-heavy defense. I'm expecting a lot of like dink and dunks to Nabers, where he just racks up the receptions. He'll get loose for 1 or 2 big gains. He's Nabers. He's elite. What a star. He's a star in the making. Yeah. Cowboys, they're giving up the fewest fantasy points per game to the slot, so I think that's notable for Wan'Dale Robinson, which to me are just wasted targets that aren't going to Nabers. Darius Slayton, limited. He's questionable for the game with a thumb injury, I believe. So if he's unable to go, maybe we get some Hyatt vertical shots sporadically, but that's more of a DFS showdown kind of call than a redraft setting. So I think Nabers, stick him in your lineup. He's not leaving your lineup until the bye, period. He's drawing that kind of volume that's absolutely insane. 18 targets week 2, 2 touchdowns last week. I will not bench Nabers. I think this guy is a very special player, and I expect him to put up points week in and week out. Pivoting to the run game. Dallas's run game.
Gary's been good. He could have that second touchdown if he ran in the end zone last week.
Good teammate. And thank you very much as an under better on that game total. You saved me. You saved me a win. So big shout out to you, Devin Singletary. GOAT status. He draws a beat up run defense though. Like they just allowed Alvin Kamara to run all over them. This past week, Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson ran all over them. It's just a great spot for Singletary, provided they don't get too far behind. That's always a big concern about game script, but Singletary to me, he's a rock solid RB2. Like this team is dead last in numerous advanced metrics defending the run. Their pass defense is kind of more middling, but the way to beat Dallas is on the ground. So I think if the Giants are able to keep this one close, it'll be because Singletary is having a phenomenal outing. So if you're looking for a showdown captain, he kind of intrigues me for that purpose.
Yeah, because he cannibalizes the workload out of the backfield. It's all Singletary. So, whether that's 15 carries or 22, it's all him. So, yeah, I think in my rankings this week, I got him like 22 at running back. Does that sound right-ish? Is that about the zone you'd have him this week too?
Yeah, I think the concern is the game script, where if it were closer, let me just say that like the Giants winning last week, beating the Browns, like, come on, we need that context there. Is definitely playing a factor in terms of how the spread is currently perceived. But I do think it's a top 20 matchup for Singletary in terms of RB20 or better. Right. I'm with you there.
You mentioned the spread there. You always have a prop for us for Thursday Night Football. Which direction are you going with that aspect of things before we hit some questions in the chat room?
I actually would like to attack the spread over a prop. Okay. So give me Dallas to cover on the road. Depends where you're looking in terms of books. We grabbed it at Fantasy Guru at minus 4.5 early in the week. Shop around. Like this morning, I saw some lines in the 5s, 5.5s and 6s. I would take anything under 7, to be honest. I just think it's a really great spot for the Cowboys. Dallas routinely falls short against elite opponents. they beat up on the weaker ones. And I think to this year, the Giants are one of those weaker ones. They were 0-2 entering a matchup against the Browns. They got lucky there in terms of how that game script played out. But Dallas against the Giants, when we just look at that matchup, insane. They've won 13 of the last 14, 11 or 13 of those wins being by a touchdown or more. Last year, they dropped a pair of 40 burgers on them. I expect Dallas, especially the Dak to Lamb connection, to find a ton of success. It's the get right spot. All three of the Giants slot corners are dealing with injuries. I think 2 of them are already ruled out. The third one's questionable. And I expect this pass rush to give Daniel Jones fits, where Daniel Jones under pressure, 4.1 yards per attempt, 47.6% completion rate. That's how you get this team to – it could be a snowballing effect where if the Dallas offense strings together successful drives in quarter 1, quarter 2, it's just going to snowball into them winning by 15, 20 points or something like that, where I love getting the Dallas line at anything under a score.
You know, and in historical information, I love it too. Like, oh, you know, they're 13-1 or whatever. It's like, that's 7 years and so much has changed. Like, we all look at it. I look at it. Like, how much, like, is it like last year? You're talking last year. Okay, it makes more sense. But you know what I mean? It's like, it's there and we all look at it and use it as kind of a part of our analysis. But really, should we? Is it, you know, because I mean, if the coaches have changed, the players have changed, you know, I always include that stuff too because I think it's cool. But how actionable is it?
It's not. I will say it's more actionable whenever we look at trends that include when the QB's playing. So I didn't go beyond when Dak has not played.
Right.
But yeah, to your credit, like there's the 2024 version of Adoree Jackson is different than the 2019 version. The 2024 one's not going to be playing tonight.
Right.
So like, yeah, there's huge differences in defense in terms of play calling, defensive schematics. Like this is a whole new defense in terms of what we saw last year with our defensive coordinator turnover, no longer Wink Martindale. But again, there's so many injuries on the back end where I think it kind of like, it could be, like I said, a snowballing effect where Dallas just rolls and puts up points after points. And I don't know if the Giants can hang.
If you're watching live on Facebook or YouTube, you can always leave comments, ask questions. We got some of those there. So before we let Tyler run, let's hit a couple of them up. Hal asked the question, is Eric All of Cincinnati any worse of a start than anyone else at tight end? I mean, Gesicki actually leads the team in targets, if I'm not mistaken. But All is catching 4 passes the last couple of weeks.
Right. I'll be honest, I would not want to go into a situation where there's a split tight end grouping like this. I would look elsewhere. I know we all saw it on Monday Night Football, so it's kind of like at the forefront of our brains, but nah, I'm going elsewhere.
Hal also asks, is trading for Worthy not advisable if Mahomes is your quarterback? Worthy hasn't done anything. Tyler talked about him. He hasn't done anything. He had one lucky run and 1 touchdown in week 1 where he wasn't covered. They're scheming to get him involved, but I don't think I'd avoid him if I had Mahomes. I don't think that's a reason to avoid him. Is it a reason to make a trade for him?
I think the trade for him reason right now is that it's a buy low opportunity. He hasn't done much in these last few weeks. And again, we can credit some of that to the offensive tackle position where they're still trying to get the line figured out. So I think it's fine trading for him if you have Mahomes. I don't mind that 1-2 pairing, given that Worthy will create points in an unconventional manner. I've likened him as a prospect to how Deshaun Jackson scores points, where it could be a 3 for 97 game or a 1 for 12. And we have yet to hit bye weeks, but once we do, I think a guy like Worthy will be super valuable on a bench.
Harlan asked the following. It's a trade question. Half point for rushing attempt, which always changes things up. We see Najee Harris involved, Jonathan Taylor involved. These guys are 18 carry a week guys. Which side do you prefer, Devontae Adams and Najee Harris, or Jonathan Taylor and Christian Kirk? Adams is better than Kirk. Taylor is better than Harris. Is it more about how your team is constructed, or do you see an obvious direction to go here with this 2 for 2, Tyler?
That's a good question. Harris enters this week with a shoulder injury.
They said it's fine, but he
said it's fine.
Yeah.
Right. I think I'm going to lean the Adams Najee route. I'll say this is a very good trade. It's very even to me. And 0.5 per carry is extremely high. I think 0.25 should be the norm, and anything above that is, to me, excessive. So this is where I think valuing like Najee.
Harris is getting 18 carries a week, even though he's getting 70 rushing yards. There's 9 points for you right there.
Bingo. Yeah. It's the Arthur Smith offense, which is really leaning me in that direction. I think he's the one that I'd want to go with, especially with Warren's injury He looks to be the more banged up of the two Steelers backs.
David P. has the following. Looking for which one of these receivers to pick up. We have Cortland Sutton, Xavier Legette, Jamison Williams, and Mr. Dobbs of the Packers. Obviously a shallow league here. PPR setup, Sutton, Legette, Jamison Williams, and Romeo Dobbs. Who is your favorite of the four?
I'm going to go with Jamison Williams. He's had some really good weeks, these first two ones. Week 3, we saw them dial back the passing. They didn't really need to against Arizona. Unfortunately, that led to a dud from Jamison. But these first 2 weeks, he's got a high target share, high first read rate. They're not utilizing him like they were the first few seasons of his career. He's finally being utilized as a starter. So Jamison's the guy, to me, is the high upside play. And despite last week's dud, I think he's the one that I would like to pick up among these four.
Tyler Beaker and Ray Flowers of fantasyguru.com. Jim C. says, I know we don't run for matchups, but I have 2 decent options if I bench Surtain's Garrett Wilson this week. Garrett Wilson, Deontay Johnson, or Terry McLaurin. In a 3 wide receiver league, all these guys are starters. Do we bench Wilson for Johnson or McLaurin, though, because of Surtain?
Yeah, DK Metcalf, 3 catches, 29 yards. George Pickens, 2 catches, 29 yards. Mike Evans, 2 for 17. Surtain's the real deal, guys.
Is Rodgers a different level of quarterback than those 3 guys, though? Could that help offset that a little bit? I mean, Justin Fields to Aaron Rodgers as a passer. I mean, come on, you're not even in the same ballpark.
Yeah, the other 2 I'd say are on par.
Okay.
Geno, the way Baker's played.
Okay.
No, I would not play Garrett Wilson here. I am a matchup-driven answer. So Ray and I do differ on these kinds of questions. I'd rather play Deontay Johnson, who was 14 targets, hit the century mark with Andy Dalton last week. Really, I think this game's going to be a shootout between them and the Bengals this week. Bengals defense could not stop Washington last night or Monday night. I think there's a chance Deontay is a very, very high-scoring wideout this week. So he would be my play over McLaurin, who I still feel caught the 55-yarder, caught the other touchdown late in the game. But I still think there's more variability to his week to week. There's going to be a lot more variance there. Deontay, I think, is a rock-solid player with Andy Dalton now under center for Carolina.
And McLaurin only had 4 catches last week. Remember that, even with all the goodness in the passing attack. Albert L. says the following, 14-team PPR, it's a trade. And I'll say this off the top, 6-player trades, try to limit them to 4. Like 6, we start getting really messy. Justin Jefferson, Jonathan Brooks, Keon Coleman. So an injured Brooks, Coleman who can't show up for work on time and his role is uncertain. For Diggs, Diggs, Kirk, and Chase Brown. So we've got Jefferson and Diggs. We want Jefferson. We've got Brown and Brooks, depending. And then we've got Chase Brown and Coleman, kind of depending. So it's, there's one superstar in this deal. Do you take the deal because of the superstar?
I do. I think in 14-team leagues, you need those heavy hitters. You can find replaceable production off the waiver wire. Keon Coleman's, Christian Kirk's, those guys are more of the wide receiver 3 kind of bucket. But to get a front-end wide receiver 1 in Jefferson and Jonathan Brooks, a guy that I think is going to be special once he's finally unleashed, I think that the mystery box of Brooks is what really sells me here. Given what we saw from Chuba last week, just Dalton breathing new life into this Carolina offense makes that the way I want to go. So I'm taking the Jefferson side.
Greg M. asked a question, by the way, of the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton or Kirk Cousins? 2 pocket passers, one guy with the revenge game and a great matchup, and then Kirk Cousins who's kind of looked, who would have thought that we'd be in week 4 with this conundrum, Cousins or Dalton?
I'm going to go Dalton. Again, I expect that game to be a shootout. I wish I got on the total earlier. It's already climbed 3 or 4 points. There's a lot of passing production, I think, to be had against this Cincinnati defense that, again, I think it's going to be one we're going to be targeting all season. They have a lot of, I don't know what it is. There's talent. They're just not coming together. The loss of DJ Reader, also huge against the run game. They're just going to be susceptible to everything to me. So I want to invest in this Carolina Panthers team, which would have sounded weird 2 weeks ago. Very different now. We got to adjust to the new information we get. The information I got last week was Dalton's here to play.
Final one from Henry Vargas. You mentioned him earlier. You like Rico Dowdle. Him or Tyler Lockett in a PPR scenario as a flex option?
That's a great question. Lockett's in a phenomenal spot. The Seahawks have been passing like crazy over these last 2 weeks. and they play a man-heavy Detroit Lions defense on Monday Night Football. I think Lockett is tough to rely on given the emergence of Jackson Smith-Njigba. He's going to be quite a variable play. And what stinks is you don't have any kind of information that you're either Thursday Night Football or Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
You don't have anything you've learned from Sunday. Great question, Henry. If I were in your shoes, I think I'd play Dowdle.
Tyler usually has quicker answers. This really is a tough one for you.
Yeah, I think I'd play Dowdle for the safety, the floor.
Okay. And sometimes the answer to the question can be that. Like, what is the likelihood that either of these guys go for 20 points? So if we can get 9 points as a floor, like Lockett could go 2 for 32, right? And that's kind of what you're saying, right? You're more confident that we're going to get 9 or 10 points out of Dowdle. Not saying he's going to explode, but just a little more confidence in that floor.
Agree. And it's still a split backfield. There's still the chance that the Cowboys lean on the pass heavily to start the game, where Dowdle's total volume doesn't really come until the second half. This is a great question. I'm going to go Dowdle just for the floor, though. I think there's a better chance that Lockett disappoints than Dowdle disappoints.
It's a little bit different than the questions we get sometimes. Drake London or George Pickens. It's like both. So this is the true difficult question for Henry. Great filibuster, by the way. Says a salute to the Elite Mafia hosts and the chat. Thank you. We appreciate you being here with us every day, Monday through Friday at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time. We appreciate Tyler Beaker being with us at about 12:30 every Thursday. Thanks for your time today, Tyler. Hope you have a great weekend. All thumbs up or flaps up or whatever the kids are saying these days. Have a lot of success this weekend, and we'll talk to you in a week.
All right. Sounds good, Ray. Thanks for having me on.
You got it. By the way, before I let you run, I didn't even give you a chance. You do the live stream on Tuesdays. Friday nights, you're doing the DFS live stream too. Talk to us about the Friday one, and I'll throw the deal that we have up on the screen right now too.
Oh, yes. Friday, I do our DFS Core 4 live stream where we go through the entire slate, looking position by position, what we're looking to target. This week, my dude Russell Clay will be joining me. So I'm very excited to run through the slate with Russ. That's every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern is when that show occurs.
Yeah, and Russell's on with me every Friday, so he'll be on with me in the morning, with Tyler in the afternoon. And as you can see there on the screen, we talked about it earlier in the show. If you missed it, we have a flash special going on right now. If you get the football DFS package, you get the wagering package for free. If you get the wagering football package, you get the DFS football package for free. So basically 2 for 1. So head over to fantasyguru.com right now. Click the subscribe tab in that top right corner. Get the package. Get both of them for the price of one. And get the opportunity to spend some time with Tyler on Friday nights on that Core 4 live stream over at fantasyguru.com. So Tyler, thanks for your visit today. We'll talk to you in a week.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. Tyler Baker of fantasyguru.com. And that's it, folks. We'll wrap things up here. We're right about that time where it's a good time to shut things down. We'll be back again tomorrow here. We again visit with Russell Clay about halfway through the show. We'll continue to wrap up baseball, and I'm sure there'll be some wacky storyline that we'll have to cover. If you missed any of the baseball discussion today, again, click us on demand, listen, rewind. You know how to do that, all that kind of good stuff. We'll be back again tomorrow. For Tyler Beaker, I'm Ray Flowers. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com. Good luck tonight in the start of week 4 of football in 2024.